Wow, that was quite the intro. Can everybody hear me okay? So I'm kind of a stalker. I walk around a lot, so bear with me. And first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming to hear some stories, and two, for taking the time. I hope it doesn't suck, so let's just say that. Let's see, there's a lot going on, and I'll fill you guys in a little bit. But what I was hoping to do is take you on the journey, sort of my journey from I'll walk you all the way back to high school to where I am today, and how we got here, and sort of some of the paths and roads along the way, and what's interesting and what's not interesting, and why I do what I do. And I hope you'll take something away from it. And if you have questions, just shout them out, or we can wait till the end and talk then. I'm Jeffrey Dachis, the CEO and founder of Dachis Group, and Dachis Group is a big data social analytics firm based out of Austin, Texas. We literally 1 minute ago just closed on the sale of our company to a company called Sprinklr here in New York City. So literally like 1 minute ago. So I've been sort of like working on my iPhone. And let's talk in a little bit about the celebration of exits, because I'm some people really in the entrepreneurial community really worship and celebrate the exit. And I want to talk about why I don't celebrate the exits. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's see. I'll take you back to high school. I was involved in all of the different forms of creative expression when I was in high school. I was sort of a photographer and the literary arts magazine editor, and I was in every musical that the school did, and I was a classical ballet dancer, and was active and involved in all the different sort of forms of creative expression, because I knew I wanted to do this thing, but I just didn't know what this thing was. Like, I knew I was really interested in the forms of expression that existed out there, but I didn't really know which one, and frankly, I sort of sucked at all of them. I mean, I really wasn't good at many of them. And so, I just tried a lot of different stuff, and I was a DJ at the radio station, and I was, so involved in a lot of different stuff. And at the time, for many of you who are my age or older, you may remember that the media, entertainment, and telecommunication landscape was highly fragmented. Magazines were produced, distributed, and monetized in a certain way. And television was produced, distributed, and monetized in a different way. And video games were produced and distributed and monetized in a different way. You put quarters in a machine. And I can go down the line, but every different form of media and entertainment and telecommunications that we know of today was highly fragmented in its production, distribution, and monetizations. And So I tried a lot of stuff, and again, it wasn't all that good. I ended up going to SUNY Purchase for my undergraduate degree in dance and dramatic literature, and then ended up kind of starting a guerrilla marketing firm, which was my first entrepreneurial venture here in New York, called In Your Face. And In Your Face was basically street teams before there were street teams. We had these street teams that we sent out, and I ended up scoring some very interesting contracts with large advertisers, and ran a nice little business doing these street teams. And I bartended on the side and waited tables. There used to be a diner called Moondance Diner downtown that I used to be a waiter at, and sort of just tried to get my game on here in New York. And it was hard, boy. And I was also, I did some B horror films, and I sort of did a lot of different stuff. And, just tried to get things going here. And everybody here knows New York's hard. New York's expensive. New York's difficult to sort of make it. And I was just trying to get things going. And then I thought, I better go back to school and see if I can get my master's degree. And I applied here at NYU. And I thought, what I really wanted to do was be Ricky Rubin. You guys know who Ricky Rubin is? He started a record company called Def Jam with a guy named Russell Simmons, and out of his dorm room here at NYU. And I was like, God, I want to be Ricky Rubin, I want to start Def Jam, And so I thought I better go to NYU to do that, And anyway, I'm not Ricky Rubin, and he's an amazing. I mean, that dude is amazing, right? So is Russell, by the way. But so I applied to get to NYU, and I couldn't really figure out what program I wanted to get into, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so I met a guy named Bran Rye, who at the time was running the Performing Arts Administration program. And I said, Bran, I don't want to go to Gallatin because it's a sort of too unstructured, and but I don't really see myself as a performing arts administrator. But can we construct a degree program for me that'll work for me? And Bran was like, great, I'll sponsor you, and we'll just make up a degree for you, and we can let you sort of figure out what you want to do and do it. And so that's what I ended up doing. I ended up sort of crafting my own media and entertainment performing arts administration degree, and ended up graduating out of CNAP. Does CNAP still exist? Starting hard now, okay? So anyway, that's my story at NYU, and I graduated from NYU into one of the worst job markets possible. 1991, George Bush Sr. was president, and we were entering into a recession, and it was really crappy. And boy, I did not have an easy time getting a job. In fact, I couldn't get a job. I really could not find a job. I didn't really want a job, though, if I really thought about it. I mean, I knew inside that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew inside that I had this desire to do something and go somewhere and be somebody. And so getting a job was like, man, it's not going to be my thing. So my brother at the time was starting a credit card cash advance system company for casinos, where if you run out of money at the casino when you're gambling, you can go get a credit card cash advance. And I thought, this is a great idea. So we built that company very quickly. I mean, he did most of it, but I sort of signed on. And we ended up taking that company public a couple of years later, a short period of time later. And I got to participate in the small little IPO that was Game Financial Corporation. That was the name of the company. And I immediately got bit by the capital markets. I was like, wow, you mean if you sell stock into the public markets, it's worth a whole lot more than it is in the private markets. And that was extremely, extremely exciting, and that I got to participate in that process with my brother. He didn't offer me as much stock as I wanted. And so I quit. I quit just a few months after and ended up moving back to New York. I went home to Minneapolis for a couple months. And I moved back to New York, and I started working with this guy named Steve Gottlieb, who ran a company called TVT Records. And TVT Records had signed Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails, and TVT Records had, and I was brought on as the vice president of marketing, and I was so excited because now I sort of get to work in the record business. I was super, super excited. And I kept telling Steve, there's this thing called the internet, and digital music is going to actually dominate the music industry. And Steve at the time had one of the only record companies that was completely vertically integrated. He owned the artist rights, he owned the publishing, he owned the distribution, he owned the retail, he had a retail environment that he could sell on direct. And so he had a vertically integrated record company, and I thought this is the perfect opportunity for a guy like this to make digital music and distribute digital music. And I kept bothering him, and 2 weeks after I got there, he fired me. He's like, I got a box, I had a box of my stuff, and he fired me. And there's a circular reference there, I'll come back. But I got fired from TVT Records. I walked out, and TVT was on 4th and Bleecker, I think, or is that right? No, Bleecker and Lafayette. And I walked out to the payphone, and there I am, I got no money, I just got fired, and I'm unemployed, and what am I gonna do? And I call up my buddy who I started In Your Face with, and he actually ended up giving me a leg up and a little bit of a side job project. And at the time, and that was at a company called AGT, Applied Graphics Technologies. And Applied Graphics Technologies built the back-end sort of publishing platforms for magazines. So if you read Newsweek magazine, it was constructed at Applied Graphics Technologies. They would make the magazine, and then they would send it to the printing presses, and then it would get printed and distributed. And at AGT, I thought, wow, this is the perfect kind of company that would benefit from digital technology. What if AGT took all of its magazine clients and published their digital magazines for them? They would make a fortune. It would be awesome. And so I bumped into, while I'm thinking about this and working at night, I'm working nights 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. at AGT, constructing magazines, digital magazines. I bump into an old friend of mine named Craig Canerick. And Craig was the geekiest guy in high school, in elementary school. I've known him since I was in nursery school, in fact. We went to Hebrew school, we went to Saturday school, we went to like all this stuff together. And he was the guy that in 4th grade was taking college math. And he wasn't just taking college math in 4th grade, he was going to college. He had to get on a bus and leave school and go to college to take math in 4th grade. And so I bump, and so he was like a super, like with the glasses, the whole thing. And I bump into him on the street in the East Village. I lived on Avenue C at the time, in Geraldo Rivero's old house, for those that, you can look it up. And I bump into Craig on the street, and he says, I said, Craig, is that you? And he's like, yeah. And he's got long hair, and this cool army jacket, and these skull rings, and like, I was like, wow, you have changed, Craig. You are like totally different than you were before. And he's like, well, I just graduated from MIT's Media Lab, and I've been working on tank simulation communication protocols for Bolt, Beranek, and Newman. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, and I've been sort of a contributor to this thing called the internet. And what? I was like, so he said, do you want to go get a cup of coffee? And I was like, yeah, I think I need a cup of coffee. So we go back to his apartment, and he shows me Netscape. Now, for those of you that know, 1 year ago this month, or in fact, maybe even yesterday or the day before, was the 20-year anniversary of the release of Netscape 1.0. And Netscape 1.0 was a browser. And a browser, this is literally 20 years ago yesterday, I think. Somebody Google it. And he showed me, this was, what are we in now? It's February 1994, 20 years ago. So Craig and I bumped into each other in like June of 1994. So 3 months or so, a few months after the Netscape browser was released, he says to me, let me show you what I've been working on. So he pulls up the Netscape browser, and he calls up a file on his computer at MIT. And it's a picture of his head on a woman's body. And I said, what the hell is this? This thing, and what am I seeing? And he goes, you're seeing my picture of a head on a woman's body. And I said, no, not the picture. What am I looking at? How is this working? And it's like this browser can browse the internet and look for stuff, and if you tell it where to go with this communication protocol, hypertext talk protocol, http://worldwideweb.mit.edu, you can pull up the files on my computer at at MIT. And I said, wow, this is it. He's like, what do you mean? I said, this is it. This is the thing. And he said, what do you mean this is the thing? This is the thing, man. This is the thing. This is going to be huge, And he said, well, I don't know. I work on this stuff all day. I said, no. This is going to fundamentally alter the face of commerce, culture, business, arts, entertainment, media, telecommunications. This thing is going to change the way everything works going forward. We need to start a business right now. He's like, what do you mean we need to start a business? I said, we need to start a business. Let's start a company. I'll work for free until you think I'm supposed to get paid. I will work for free until you think I deserve getting paid. And as soon as that moment happens, whenever that moment happens, we split everything 50-50 going forward. He's like, that sounds like a great idea. So subsequently, shortly thereafter, we ended up starting working on this thing that's now known as Razorfish. And we created the first banner ad ever. You can look that one up too. Well, there were several. There were 7 or 8 of them, and Craig did most of the work on it, so I'll give him credit for designing the first banner ad. He doesn't need me to give him credit. He gets credit. We did the first web animation ever. So there was this technique that we hacked into the Netscape browser and found out that you could do this technique called server push, where you pushed graphical images through an open server call. And that was before animated GIFs existed. So the animated GIF wasn't even a thing. I don't even think GIFs were a thing then. So, sort of the first web banner ad, the first web animation ever. And the second that we put that little blue dot on screen and made it bounce, we made this blue dot bounce. And the next morning, like our servers got crushed. I mean, we got traffic from all around the world. Like it was like overwhelming, like traffic, because no one had ever seen this little blue dot bounce up and down, you know? And immediately we were known as the guys in New York that could do this stuff, this internet stuff. And very quickly, we formed Razorfish, and we did a little bit over $1 million in revenue the first year. We did like $3 million in revenue the second year. We did like $13 million in revenue the third year. We did like $50 million in revenue the fourth year. And then, you know, by the year 2001, we did $280 million in revenue. And we took the company public in 1999 on the stock market. We raised, I think, $55 million in our IPO. And the company was valued at about $300 million. And very quickly, the company's valuation shot way up to about $1.5 billion. And then we bought another company, and the valuation went to $6 billion. And it was like, wow, $6 billion, holy shit, you know, right? And you can imagine, right? I mean, and all of a sudden, like, Ben Affleck is calling, and Gwyneth Paltrow wants to come over, and like, it's like you're the rock stars of New York City. All of a sudden, it's like being the Rolling Stones. Everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants you to show up on CNBC and talk. Everybody wants to come over and hang out. Everybody wants you to build their website. By the way, Steve Gottlieb from TVT Records called and wanted us to build his website. And I said, we'll build your website, but you have to write me an apology letter telling me what an ass you were and how, and he did. And he did. So, and it says it, anyway. So, so all of a sudden, you know, it's like, wow, there's this money and there's this fame, and we're on the cover of these magazines, and you're in Wired magazine, and all the things that you can dream about. Is pinching myself, like we're self-actualizing. We're doing everything exactly like, you know, wow, it's amazingly fun. And we were the poster boys for everything that was so amazing about this revolution that I believed so passionately in. This revolution that the internet was, or digital technologies, were going to transform the way we do everything that we do. And boy, it was a rocket ride up. And very quickly, after becoming the poster boys for everything that was great about the internet, the stock market crashed. And I can tell you why the stock market crashed, but it largely crashed because there was a lot of crappy companies that were created, tons of shitty little companies that were created. And I'll say this because there was a greedy pipeline of venture capitalists that were putting money into things they should have never put money into. There was investment bankers that were taking companies public that should have never been taken public. And there was too much stock on the market for the market to bear. And people started selling. And they sold everything. They sold companies that were great, and they sold companies that were crappy. And Razorfish plummeted from $108 a share to $1.08 a share. So instead of being the poster boys for the internet, we were the piñatas for the internet. And we got death threats. And we got our property vandalized. And we got hate mail. And our employees were mad. And everybody sort of turned against this thing that I believed so passionately in from the day we saw it till sort of this point in 2001 when the stock market crashed. And it felt so unfair. You know, it felt so unfair that the thing we had spent all of our time and energy building and put so much passion and sweat and blood into, creating the kind of culture that you now know as common in the startup culture, the kind of place that you go where people love to show up to work every day, where they're passionate every single day about being at work, where they come and do their best work ever. Like that thing, that place, got sort of washed out with the bathwater of the stock market crash. Unfortunately, Razorfish was still a sizable player, and we navigated the company, and then without me, Craig and I sort of left the company in late 2001. The company then has now since navigated to become, again, the largest digital marketing solutions firm in the world, and it's in great hands at Publicis today. It's as a unit of Publicis, and so we're very, very proud about the sort of trajectory of Razorfish. And it's an interesting story, and so if you I'm happy to talk about it. But there's a lot of really great things, and then sort of this weird trajectory near the end, and then a resurgence and a phoenix rising of really awesomeness. And today, all the people at Razorfish and all the great things that they've done, I'm very, very proud of them, and it's in a great place. That said, so internet winter happens in 2001 and 2002, and nobody's investing in any internet companies. In fact, all the people who laughed at, who were jealous and were like of the trajectory of the way things went so well, now got to really sit back and gloat and laugh. All the people who said, this internet thing is a fad, those guys don't know what they're talking about. The way we used to do business is the way that it's going to be done. The record companies still sat back, laughed, fat and happy after sort of all the internet crashing happened. And internet winter settled in, and it was a dark period of time. And then the trade centers went down, and that was a dark period in time here in New York. And but then sort of something started to emerge, and it started with Google announcing AdWords and AdSense. So Google started, I think, in 1997 as a company, and really sort of came into play in 1999 and 2000. And then in 2001, they released AdWords and AdSense. And AdWords and AdSense sort of corresponded with the beginnings of what I'll call the democratization of the tools of self-expression. I'll say that again, the democratization of the tools of self-expression, where for the first time in the history of the world, instead of the expression and distribution of ideas being controlled by the hands of the few, the very rich media companies, for the first time with Blogger, you could express your ideas worldwide for free. You could write a blog about your gluten-free cupcake recipes, or about your fishing trips, or whatever it is that you wanted to do, and share it worldwide for free. And Google enabled us to monetize that. So I talked to you before, when I started sort of in high school, all the fragmentation of the production, distribution, and monetization of ideas. Now in 2001 and 2002, with AdSense and AdWords, each one of us could produce, distribute, and monetize our ideas for free. Wow. This was the beginning of the most fundamental shift in the communication landscape in the history of mankind. The most fundamental shift in the communication landscape in the history of mankind began when the democratization of the tools of self-expression started to shift the way we connected, engaged, shared, produced, distributed, and monetized our ideas. Now, Flickr came out somewhere just after that, and YouTube came out a little bit after that, and you can start to see, I can share my photos, or I can share my videos, right? Ratings and reviews started to show up on websites. Wow, I can share my thoughts about products. People started to share their ideas and distribute them worldwide for free. Facebook started 2004. Now, prior to that, there was MySpace, which had started and was on a trajectory to do something really cool, and then sort of petered out. Before that, there was a thing called Friendster. For those, and before that, 6 Degrees of Separation, for anyone who really remembers. And so you could start to see that the democratization of the tools of self-expression started to really take hold, where people really wanted to share their ideas worldwide for free. And the platforms that started to emerge, like Facebook or like MySpace, started enabling people to connect with each other, to share stuff with each other. Flickr not just enabled me to share my photos with the world, but it enabled me to share photos with other photographers. And YouTube enabled me to share videos in a place where all the videos were. And you started to see these different forms of expressions of ideas start to coalesce and connect with the power of the network effects that we all have. So it's one thing for me to be able to share my ideas, but it's another thing if all of us are sharing all of our ideas all the time. And then in 2007, something really fundamental happened. The iPhone was invented. Not because it's cool. It's not powerful because it's a cool device. What it did was force the carriers, the telecommunication carriers, to take a lock off the deck. When it used to be, when you bought a Verizon phone, you only got Verizon apps on the phone. There wasn't even apps. There was just Verizon stuff or AT&T stuff or whatever. Apple said, no. We're gonna wipe the deck of the phone, and we're gonna let developers create all kinds of apps, all kinds of ways in which you can make this device useful. And the carriers, you're gonna do what we say. And with that, all of a sudden, all of this giant sort of development cycles of the app ecosystem started to emerge. And what that did was empower the democratization of the tools of self-expression even further. Because now I could share my ideas worldwide for free in HD, on the go. You all are participating in the most profound shift in the communication landscape in the history of mankind right now. For the first time, we all have the ability to express and share our ideas worldwide for free in HD on the go. Think about that. You take it for granted that you get to shoot a video here and then upload it, or taking Instagram photos and sharing them. That people are creating their own micro channels, and it's extremely, extremely powerful. So what does that mean? What does that mean for everybody? Let's talk about sort of the shift that's really occurring. What's it going to mean when your clothes have sensors in them that share where you are, or what you're wearing, or how fast you're moving through the space and time? What about when your refrigerator has sensors in it that know what's in it, that there's RFID chips or other kinds of sensors in the milk and in the orange juice and in the other things in your refrigerator? Or all the elements of your house. You've seen all the sort of new technologies coming out with Nest, the sort of thermostat, and there's a whole bunch of different sort of new things coming out. But think about the world where I'm not just sharing my ideas worldwide for free in HD on the go. I'm sharing every single thing about my life. Everything about my life, not just with my phone, but with my glasses or my Nike Plus band or with my shoes, or all the different things that are going to have sensors and sharing technology in them. What does that mean for us? It means that there's industries, and this is why it's relevant to you all, there are industries today that are going to continue to be fundamentally disrupted by, is there anything funny up there? Fundamentally disrupted by the development and distribution and availability of technology in the ways that we just started talking about it. And some people view that as a threat. If you were Steve Gottlieb or you were in older industries, and I can tell you a few industries I think are going to be radically disrupted going forward, but those industries are going to protect their market share or their ability to continue to do what they do. And it's up to each and every one of you to figure out how to disrupt them. Because there's an opportunity to arbitrage the future. There's a lot of friction between the way business gets done today and the way that it's going to get done tomorrow. And each and every one of you, I'm certain, have ideas as to how you're going to remove some of that friction and create opportunities and arbitrage the future. And we can talk about all the different things that are happening in wearables. We can talk about all the different things that are happening in the Internet of Things. We can talk about all the different things that are happening with mobile technology and all the different various aspects of why and how those things integrate together. But I've never been more excited about the future than I am right now. There is more opportunity ahead of us for each and every one of you to figure out how to arbitrage that future and how to create something that you can be passionate about, that you can get excited about going to work every day, that you can integrate into everything that you do, that you can motivate others to get excited about it as well, that you can figure out how to make a market in, that you can bring your products to market, that you can hire and retain people, that you can generate revenue and profitability and live a great life doing what you love to do. And there's nothing better in the world than waking up every day excited to go do what you love to do every day. And yeah, there's like BS that you got to deal with, and I like to tell people that I keep a shovel by my desk to shovel the shit that I deal with every day. Because that's what I do. I mean, you do have to do some of that. But that doesn't mean that I don't love the opportunities that we're creating. You know, at Dachis Group, which we just, I think closed, you know, we're working with big data social analytics. We're collecting and analyzing the conversations of all the people all around the world on every different social platform that exists, and analyzing that data, and then peeling back the data and providing lenses on that data to brands, and helping brands understand how better to engage with you as opposed to advertising at you. And engaging with you in a trusted, authentic, and transparent way is new for brands. Brands are used to shouting at you. They're used to interrupting you, doing the thing that you're like, you know, you like watching Game of Thrones, or no, that's a bad one, but you like watching Modern Family, and they like interrupting you. That's going to shift, because you're not spending your time watching, you know, major media anymore. You're spending most of your time on Facebook or on Instagram or in social platforms. And let me just evidence that for a second. How many people in this room have read a newspaper in the last month not at the airport? Okay, actually quite a few of you. Not the New York Post. Okay. All right. How many of you have a subscription to cable TV? About maybe a third. How many of you have bought a magazine in the last month not at the airport? About a third, okay. All right, you guys are higher major media consumers than most. How many of you have bought a CD? Okay. How many of you are subscribers to Spotify? A lot, right? Okay. I'm going to keep going here. How many of you have a Facebook account? Right. Okay. How many of you have a Twitter account? Almost everybody, right? How many of you have an Instagram account? Okay. How many of you are spending time on Snapchat? Okay. Okay. So where I'm going to go with this, how many of you have bought a product on Amazon? Okay. How many of you, when you buy products on Amazon, look at the ratings and reviews? Okay. So that was nearly everybody. How many of you, when you've seen a movie, have checked out the reviews before you went to see it? Right. I'm going to keep going here. Or maybe I don't have to anymore. The point that I'm trying to illustrate is that we all are spending our finite amounts of time that we have consuming each other's content more so every day than we're consuming content created by major media companies. There's a finite amount of time in the day. I'm spending more time on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube or wherever than I am watching a show, reading a magazine, or reading a newspaper. And I'm also generating my pre-purchase consideration, the place in which I'm deciding what I might buy. I'm gaining my pre-purchase consideration decisions from the ratings and reviews of friends, family, followers, and complete strangers, more so than I'm getting that from a brand. Think about what's shifting. Your time is shifted into different forms. You're consuming more stuff made by each other than you are by major media companies. And you're building your pre-purchase consideration decisions based on each other more so than you are by brands. There's a fundamental shift going on right now in the marketing industry created by the democratization of the tools of self-expression. Right? We're sharing and we trust each other more than we trust big companies. And there's tons of studies out there. Anyway, my point being, you guys now have opportunities that we've really never seen before. There's industries that are shifting. You have the opportunity now with your network here at NYU and the great education that you're getting and the wonderful teachers and mentors that you have here to embark on careers that are of your defining, things that you decide to do the way you decide to do it. And there's more opportunity ahead of you now than I've ever seen ever before. And so, if you could, just pinch yourself for a moment. take a moment to really grok what's going on here, because there's really a future ahead of you that's so wonderfully amazing that I'm just excited to be here to talk about it. So anyway, thank you. And if you have questions, let's talk about it. Thank you. Do people have questions? Yes.
How did you come up with the name Razorfish?
Razorfish was picked out of the dictionary blindfolded. Truth. What? We were like, wow, that's a good one. Yes.
Do you have a life?
Do I have a life? I have a wife and 2 gorgeous kids, yes. I'll say being an entrepreneur is not something that, well, let me flip back. My wife will hate me for this. I've never really believed in work-life balance, because work and life were always the same thing to me. So doing what I love to do every day was, I leap out of bed in the morning to go do what I love to do. Like, I don't have to go to work. I can't wait to get to do what I love to do, right? And the idea that there's a thing called a job where you go to and that it's work is like so oppressive, right? But it's so exciting to think about this place that you're going to go to do what's fueling your soul, the thing that's going to make you excited and happy. And so if you could do that every day, wouldn't you? Yeah. So do I have a life? Yeah, it's a rich, full life with lots of stuff in it. It happens to involve me doing what I love to do every day. That also distracts me a lot from being with my kids and my wife, which would like me to spend more time with them not working. But so there's anyway, I don't know if that answered the question. Yeah. Yeah.
What are the best tips you would give to people working with partners, like good partner ethics and relationship advice?
You mean like a co-founder kind of partner,
Yeah.
or industry partners?
Co-founder.
Co-founders. So I trusted Craig with his mom knew my mom. We grew up, we went to nursery school together. We napped together, like we took naps, in preschool. I knew him at my core. And so there was never, ever, ever a question of where we were going to net out. We disagreed on a lot of stuff, but we always were going to come out on the right side of that. And we always had a sort of unified front. So co-founders are great because you can balance your own skills and strengths and weaknesses with somebody else's strengths and weaknesses. But I would not take that relationship lightly. That is a marriage, and getting divorced is really expensive. So what I would say is, when you're thinking about a co-founder, don't take it lightly. If you have an idea, own that idea. Be the founder, and then hire people if you need help. But if there's somebody that you really think can balance out your weaknesses or can really help you, or let's say you're a creative person or a business person and you need a technical co-founder, for example, to help you build something, that makes a lot of sense. But just make sure you think through that stuff, because partnerships are not easy. It is a straight marriage, and it's very expensive to unwind. Yep.
What is the next step now that you've sold your company?
The next step is really undefined right now. It's funny, I took a lot of time off after Razorfish, and I think right now we're just sort of looking, we'll see. Sprinkler is the name of the company that bought Dachis Group, and I'll be an advisor there. I'll be doing some operational transition there for some period of time. I love what they're doing. The combination is extremely powerful, and I'm really excited for the future that's going to hold. But then it's time for me to start thinking about what's next, and I don't know yet. Yep, sorry, go ahead. I'll get to the other questions.
What would be the difference?
Regarding what?
Building a company?
So let's see, there's a couple fundamental mistakes that I think I made along the way, and then a gazillion little ones, and there's no way to get around it. The most important thing is, when you screw up, and you will, is to learn from what you screwed up on. One thing at Razorfish, we could have done a secondary offering, which was we did an initial public offering of stock, and there was a point when the stock was worth a lot of money that we could have done a secondary offering, and basically buttressed and buffered ourselves from the dot-com crash, and I didn't do it. I didn't do a secondary offering at Razorfish, and had we done that, it would have had sort of a different, I don't know, the outcome might still be the same, but it would look a little bit different. And so that's one big mistake that I can identify. Boy, I won't make that mistake again. And tons of other little mistakes. Hiring, I think, is key. You really need to vet who you hire. You need to like who you hire. You need to be able to work with who you hire. And I've made some hiring mistakes over the years that really have cost me both time and energy and real consternation at work that helped me use that shovel next to my desk. And I'd say that's probably one of the big ones is sort of hiring mistakes. But there's tons. I mean, I probably made a gazillion mistakes. And we can talk about it after if you want. Let me pick somebody back there, yeah.
So I wonder how much would you say your personality contributes to your success?
Let's see. It's probably a huge detractor, actually. So, I don't know. I mean, you can. I think. I don't know how my personality has affected the business at all. I'm passionate about what I do. I love what I do. And the only way to be successful is to truly love what you do. And I think you all can see that I love what I do. And it's not, I don't have to tell it to you like I just did, but I don't have to tell it to you. You can see it. And the only way for you to be successful, whether you're fundraising or whether you're recruiting or whether you're selling or whether you're building or whether you're operating or whatever you're doing, the only way to be successful is to be truly passionate about it. And don't do anything that you're not passionate about. It'll come back and bite you. You will carry negative karma with you if you don't fulfill what your soul is telling you to do. And I can't say that strongly enough. And you have more opportunity now than you've ever had. It's cheaper to start something up. It's cheaper technologically to build stuff. It's cheaper to bring product to market than it's ever been. You have more opportunity today than ever in the history of mankind. So don't cheat your soul by not doing what you love. Yes?
What is the role of agencies in the startup space? Because you're seeing a lot of incubators opening up inside agencies, and universities are playing off the same business model of opening incubators or venture capital firms inside the university and agencies.
Agencies like advertising agencies or agencies?
Advertising agencies, digital agencies, PR firms, a lot of them are opening up their own incubators inside.
So let's see. The intrapreneurial sort of trend to allow for people inside a big company to start something and have it feel sort of like a small company inside a big company is going to continue, I think, because people have ideas and they want to be able to figure them out. And the smart companies are going to allow for the kind of innovator's dilemma. Have you guys read the innovator's dilemma yet? Anyone? Innovator's dilemma, yes? Some of you? Does anyone read the innovator's dilemma if you haven't? It's why can't big companies innovate? Because they're so wed to their current business model and the cash flow that gets generated from that model that they can't get away from it and move into new markets. And that's why there are all these young startups that can sort of start to eat the lunch. That's why Facebook in 8 years can get done what it got done, because companies can't move. So my point is, I think the entrepreneurial ventures inside businesses are going to continue to try to support folks. I think startups and incubators, you're going to start seeing more and more and more and more of them. But I will say this: the startup mythology is bullshit. You don't get to buy a case of Red Bull and a foosball table and call yourself a startup. That's bullshit. Startup is a grind. It is a grind, and you will grind every day, and you will have grinding feelings, and you will feel like your head is being ground. Like, it is a grind. Do not believe in the startup mythology that you read on TechCrunch, where, it's bullshit. All right. You need to have a great idea. You need to be better at it than everyone else. That's how you win. You don't just get to, again, buy a case of Red Bull and get a foosball table and then, wow, we're a startup. No. You have to have a better idea. You have to execute better. You have to sell better. You have to hire better. You have to win better. That's what enables you to succeed in the startup world. Not reading TechCrunch and going to the meetup and like and calling yourself a startup. That's not what this is about. It's about having awesomeness everywhere you go and being awesome and kicking butt at doing it, right? And that's what you all want to do anyway, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
So I'm sure people pitch you ideas all the time. How do you go about evaluating what you hear?
There's a lot of different evaluation criteria. I hear a lot of ideas. I do. I'm not a venture capitalist, so I will say that. But there's teams that are obviously talented. There's great ideas. Ideas are kind of a dime a dozen, though. Just gonna say, like everybody, there's a lot of ideas. You need a team to execute on it. You need the capital or the resources. It doesn't necessarily mean capital. You need the resources to be able to execute on your ideas with a team that has the sort of talent to execute. And so it's that combination of team, idea, and resources in the right mix that enables sort of success or the potential for success. And by the way, I'm probably like the worst guy to evaluate ideas. Like I would have never thought like Uber was a good idea. Like, and it's a great idea. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we're going to create an app that lets you call black car services. It's like or whatever, right? I mean, so I'm probably not those three things I think are the things that I would look at. Yep. Go ahead. Yep.
What advice do you give to people whose passions may not be profitable? Like I could be passionate about eating pizza, but no one's going to pay me to eat like a whole pie of pizza, unless it's an eating competition. You know what I mean? So like.
There may be other people that are passionate about pizza, and somehow in the collective there's some information. You might be able to unlock the kind of mozzarella cheese that everybody really likes, and then monetize the ability to know what kind of cheese people like pepperoni or what, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to skin that cat, and you may, so. And not everybody's passions are businesses, by the way. So I guess that's your point. You may love pizza, but that may not be a business. So then don't do that. Let me pick somebody back over here. Sorry, go ahead.
So when you about that internet story, when you first heard about it, how much time would you spend on learning the technology, and how much the time you spent on improving what you're already good at?
Let's see. The technology, I mean, I learned by asking Craig a lot of questions. I'm not a computer scientist, so I could probably say that I'm well versed in all of the different aspects of internet technology today, and that just comes from sort of being in the industry and learning it, and yeah, my strengths have evolved over the years. I didn't know that I was good at mergers and acquisitions till I bought 45 companies, and I didn't know that I was going to enjoy giving lectures. And I mean, so there's you evolve and you try new things and you explore. But I think I wouldn't pigeonhole yourself as to what your strengths are, but I also wouldn't underestimate that you have weaknesses that need balancing. Yeah, I don't know if I answered that question. Anyone up here? Yep. Yep.
Can you clarify or go more in depth in what Google did exactly to change the world?
Sure. Google, when they organized a lot of information and made it easy to search, right? All kinds of information, shopping information and the most obscure kinds of other information. And so if you can search for something, but the fact that Google lets you find like interesting photos of obscure like African animals, they're not making any money off that search. But a lot of people are searching for the cheapest hotel in Paris, France. And a lot of people are searching for the best soap that you can wash your baby with or whatever. And that information ends up being extremely valuable to those people that buy keywords against those searches. And so the byproduct, the thing that Google's doing really amazing is organizing the world's information, which is what they have done, I think, extremely well, and everybody, I think, is benefiting from it. They're monetizing it, off that small subset of searches that are commercially related, and they're doing quite a good job of it, I think. Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Do you have any specific advice for people who have passions that exist outside of technology, like further outside of the technology realm?
Yeah, I think it's not about technology. Technology is just the enabler, right? I was at a conference just a couple of days ago, and a woman did a start. She walked to her apartment every day, and there was a person in the cold who was homeless and had no mittens, and who you could obviously see whose hands were freezing. And she always thought, should I give this person money, or should I give them a pair of mittens, or should I give them, something to help them? And yet, everybody here, I think, has had that nagging suspicion, like, should I give them money or should I not give them money? If I give them money, are they going to buy the mittens with it, or are they going to do something else with the money, right? And so she had this idea that what if I could target my money towards a homeless person that needed dentures, or that needed shoes, or that needed specific things, and they only got that money to buy those things. And she started a startup to enable. It's called Hands Up. I think you guys can check it out, Hands Up. I was really impressed with it. Like, it really enables you to be able to give money to people that are in the most need of it for the things they need. And it gets the money to them to only buy those things. And anyway, I thought it was really cool. And so technology is just the enabler for her to realize her vision of like really trying to help someone. And so it's not about the technology. It's technology is the enabler that enables you to express your ideas or your passions in the most interesting ways today. Yes.
What do you consider your biggest weakness?
Oh, I have too many to count. I don't know. Wow. Really, I have a lot. Let me think about it, and I'll shout it out to you in a minute. Go ahead, yes. Yep.
One of the main points that you talked about is basically the rapid pace of the democratization of freedom of expression. But that kind of enables a sort of a good and a bad. The fact that now that we have much more communication with people all over the world, we're having so much different perspectives, and we're having a compound effect on like the amount of things that we create and the scale that we create. But with that fluidity, we're kind of having a funnel effect of our own personal information.
Yes.
With the tools that we're using, like the Googles and Facebooks and Amazon. If we look at all the daily tools that we use, we're actually very few companies now, again, control a big portion of that data. And as it turns out, that data is very important to
That's right.
the government, for example.
Yep.
And now with that centralization of information and the rapid pace of us opening up even more areas within our now things like the NSA having access to all this information. So with you having a early insight into the good of the internet and the potential of how it has, how it could be as what's taking place today, with how it's going in the future and the battle we're facing now when it comes to our personal security and freedom of information. What advice can you give to us to possibly protect ourselves?
That was a great setup for privacy, right now. So, you want to know about privacy. And it's a great question. First, as just a side note, there was a guy that came up in the internet with me in the 90s named Josh Harris, who had a company called Sudo. You sort of Google that and look at it. He was really a crazy character. But he ended up creating this, well, let me just say, there was a movie made about this giant party that he had in December of 1999. And he invited like 100 people, and I'm going to reference, he invited like 100 artists and media people and a whole bunch of different folks to this giant loft in Soho that he tricked out and had cameras everywhere. Literally everywhere in the entire loft. And he made these pod beds for everybody to sleep in. And when you signed up, you came for a month, for this whole month of December, to basically like party and eat and drink and be crazy. And they had like a rifle range in there and anyway, a whole lot of crazy stuff for a month. And you basically agreed to be like locked into this loft for a month. But everything you did was recorded. So you had all the free booze or drugs or food or whatever it is that you wanted for the entire month. And you got to party and be in this huge thing. And the cost was your privacy. And there was a movie made called We Live in Public about this party. So check out that movie. But what Josh was onto, and what I think is a fundamental problem that we're about to face, or that's something that's going to create enormous polarity in sort of the technology that we use and consume, and then the data that's generated from it, is this idea around privacy. And the fact that as soon as you're giving up all this information, you think you're benefiting from it, right? I'm sharing my Instagram photo. We had a great photo, right? A cool selfie, and like we put a cool thing on it, and we shared it. And the more stuff that we're sharing, just like you pointed out, we think we're benefiting from it. And we are. There's a lot of great stuff that happens when you share and connect with others and engage worldwide for free in HD on the go. There's a lot of great things. I get to find out which Paris hotel to stay in because I can read the ratings and reviews. But the flip side of that is that people at this party started to lose their minds because they realized that everywhere they were going, every single thing they did, there was a camera recording them. And the idea that they were being watched, the idea that every single bit of their entire lives were being shared or recorded or watched by someone started freaking people out. And I think we're going to start to see sort of the polarization of all the awesome stuff that happens when you connect and share with people, with a very interesting double-edged sword on the other side of that, which is what happens when you don't really realize how much you're sharing and who's using it against you, or who can affect the outcome of your life because of what you've shared. And I think our kids and all of us need to be aware of the privacy settings, of the terms and conditions when we sign up for stuff, and it's a really interesting and important debate to be having. And if you think about some of the apps that are out there now, have anyone seen Confide? And check out this app, Confide. It's like Snapchat for text messages. You can text somebody, they can read it once, and then it disappears. And you can't do a screen grab of it. Confide. Or this other app called Secret. Has anyone seen Secret? Check out Secret. People anonymously posting stuff because they want to share ideas, but they want to do it anonymously. So this idea of anonymousness and privacy is going to continue to, I think, be a huge opportunity for whoever can help figure out how to help people navigate now this increasing polarity.
Okay.
I can take one more? Two more?
Yep.
Okay, let's hit the back. Go ahead, yep, standing up.
On one side of this startup revolution, you have Facebook and Instagram who have established themselves in the industry. But on the other side, which no one normally sheds much light on, you also have startups which have failed, or which couldn't make it to their level. So do you see something similar which happened in 1999 happening in near future, or something which we must be cautious of?
I do not see a bubble. I do not believe there is a bubble in technology or in internet things right now. Yes, WhatsApp got sold for $16 billion, but that's not a bubble. Those are private investors selling and buying private stock, and you and I and our retirement funds, we're not invested in any of that. Most startups fail. Most companies that start up will fail. So the odds are already against you. That doesn't mean don't do it. That just means realize that you have to be awesome at what you're doing. You have to be willing to go the extra mile, to be ultra courageous in your steps going forward. And so the point is, no, I don't see a bubble right now. I only see opportunity. There's enormous more opportunities. And the cost and the ability to create startups is cheaper than ever, and enabling more of us to not only share our ideas worldwide for free in HD on the go, but also to start companies and do things that we've never seen before because of all this wonderful technology that's available. Last question. I'm going to pick up there. Yes? Yep?
Do you consider any blog websites and books required reading?
I know what I read, but that's just for me.
Of course, like startup,
There's so many. A buddy of mine, David Kidder, did this book called The Startup Playbook. You can check that out. And I have a whole slew of reading. If somebody pings me after, I can maybe tweet it out or whatever. I can put a list up of the stuff that I've read or that I read that I think is really interesting and important. There's a lot of great new stuff coming out. All right. I'm sorry. Last question.
who are your mentors, and who you look for, or who you look for advice?
So everybody, approaches their startup career in different ways. My dad was the father of 7 kids and an insurance salesman who just busted his ass every day to make sure that we had like food. And if I was going to think about anybody, he was my prime mentor. And then my brothers, who are older than me, also set an extremely good example of what was required to basically hustle. You know, I learned very quickly at a very young age. My mom and dad always said that when you're 18, you're out. So you got to figure out how to do this. And I knew that when I was really young, and I watched all my brothers do it. And so I would look at my brothers and my father as really sort of my mentors. When I think about industry icons and things like that, there's a lot of different people in a lot of different industries over the years that I've looked at and admired because of their tenacity, because of their strength in the market and what they've done, because of their ability to navigate the future and arbitrage those opportunities that I talked about. And they're probably too numerous to mention, but a voracious reader of sort of all of that kind of stuff, and inspired, really, finding inspiration in all of those success stories. And with that, I guess I'm going to get kicked off. So thank you.